Hey, it's Cliff, did you know that they removed the Bitcoin emoji icon from Twitter? You know, the emoji where you type in hashtag Bitcoin and it shows a little Bitcoin on there? Apparently that's gone today. And if I'm speculating why, it's probably because Twitter is going to use this as a feature that you can pay, you can have your little brand icon. Like if you start a business or something, you can put your little logo there. I don't know if that's true. That's what I'm speculating. But yeah, the Bitcoin logo, as you see back here, gone. No longer on Twitter. But that's not what this video is about. This video is about Bitcoin 2024. And I'm gonna give you my thoughts on the key highlights, the things that I thought were really important. So let me give you what I thought was important from probably least importance to most important. So let's start out with Michael Saylor. So if you've watched any Michael Saylor speech before, it's pretty much a rehash of what he had already told us. He comes out, he's a total Bitcoin maxi because he's made so much money off of Bitcoin. He might be the richest Bitcoin person in the world right now. So I think he gave about a 30 or 45 minute presentation, but just to sum it up really quickly, he's just saying that Bitcoin is the best asset for any person to invest in the world. He starts comparing different trends from like a 401k, investing in like the S&P to real estate, and he shows the real returns on what you're actually going to get from these different products and how Bitcoin is so much better. Now, in my opinion, he kind of goes off the deep end a little bit. I am not going full blown 100% into Bitcoin, which is kind of what he's suggesting. Now, I'm not going to reverse mortgage my house and put it into Bitcoin. I'm not going to take out loans and put it into Bitcoin, even though this is kind of where he's teetering along the line. I think some of the advice he gave financially was completely irresponsible, although I'm a big Bitcoin guy and I do think you should invest in Bitcoin. I just don't think you should put yourself in a bad position financially because there's crazy drops when it comes to Bitcoin. You're going to lose 50% or more on occasions, and most people are emotional investors and they will sell out of their Bitcoin when these bad drops happen. At the same time, when Bitcoin moons and you're up 100% or whatever, those people also won't sell. They're going to be in such a high that this asset that they hold is giving them such great returns that they're not going to sell. They're going to say, oh, it's going to go up 200%, now 300%, and then they're just not going to sell. So I do think you should have Bitcoin, but when this guy starts talking about taking out loans, you're shilling Bitcoin a little bit too much for me, and I think that's irresponsible. Everybody should have a diversified portfolio to weather any storm that comes their way. My number 2 highlight is Edward Snowden. This is one that I was actually looking forward to because this guy is normally coming from like a tech angle while also dealing with privacy, and I'm a nerd. I think that's cool. However, when he came out this time around, he was a little bit more negative on the future of Bitcoin, which, just to put it in perspective, he normally is a little bit negative. He's looking at things that could happen in our future that could be a detriment to society. So he comes out, and one of his key points was talking about how Bitcoin is not a private ledger. In the past, people thought that these transactions were anonymous. People couldn't see what you were buying. Obviously, we know that's not true anymore. And I think most people know now that Bitcoin is not anonymous. There's so many different KYC options that people are offloading their Bitcoin on, different off-ramps that people are taking profits from, that they can tie you to certain wallets. The IRS knows what you're doing. They know what you're buying with your Bitcoin. And basically he drummed up a fear fest about how people are going to know what you're buying. And in certain societies, if they see you buy something that isn't necessarily considered good for society or whatever they deem that you should or should not be buying, maybe they could cut you off in the future. He references the trucker movement in Canada and how they shut down their bank accounts, and also China and their social credit scores, and just things like that could happen in a totalitarian society. So Edward Snowden believes that they're essentially doing log analysis on your Bitcoin transactions, and they're going to tie that to you with your identification. They're going to know everything that's going on with you. So that was interesting conversation. Definitely not mind-blowing. I think most of us already know that they're monitoring our transactions. That's not really what Bitcoin was ever about. He does kind of go into how he believes that there should be a way to make Bitcoin transactions more private, which is kind of a cool idea. He said he's been talking about this for like 10 years. I haven't found a conversation where he's ever talked about this, but I'm sure he probably has talked about it in the past. And then really his final point was that Obviously, there was a lot of politicians at this event. It almost seemed like a Republican convention. So that was a little weird for me from someone who was watching Bitcoin, and there's all these videos of Hillary Clinton saying it's magical internet money and it's a scam and it's only used for terrorists. And, you know, we've all been around this for a while and know what politicians used to think about cryptocurrencies. So now we have people like Trump headlining this event, and there was Senator Lummis and just all of these Republicans that were there, and it was a little bit odd. So Edward Snowden's main point here was cast your vote. We need them for positive policies for Bitcoin, because we're not going to get anywhere if we don't have the government on board, at least a little bit. There's so much room for innovation that needs policies in place to actually get us where we need to be. So he's saying, cast your vote, but don't join a cult. And I think he's absolutely right. These people are going to be pandering. Obviously, at a Bitcoin conference, they want to take our market share to get our votes. So he's absolutely right. But we all know politicians are evil. I don't think he told us anything new. We just have to be careful on who we throw our support behind. The next one I want to talk about very briefly was Cathie Wood. Her video is on my channel, and she comes out and she is talking about how AI is going to feed into this massive machine, and we're going to be having products of innovation in the future that are just going to blow our mind, and we're going to build different financial systems, and it's just crazy. So go watch this. Obviously, she's a lot smarter than me, so it's absolutely fascinating conversation that they had back and forth. I don't know who the other person was. I think her name was Helen or something. Let me look it up real quick. She had a conversation back and forth with Alice Killeen. So type that in on YouTube and watch that conversation. It's about half an hour, I think, but it's worth it. It was intriguing. I was live streaming it, and I honestly got sucked into their conversation. Wasn't even saying much in the live stream because I just thought it was so good. And if I'm being real, this is my number one of the entire convention. I enjoyed it that much. So I got two more here. We had Cynthia Lummis come out with Tim Scott. Honestly, I wouldn't go back and watch the speech. It wasn't really that great. It was more about them campaigning and saying how Republicans are so great. But after that speech, Cynthia Lummis came out, I believe, either that day or the next day, and she announced that she's introducing this bill into the Senate. And what this bill is going to do is allow the US Treasury to buy $1 million of Bitcoin, and they're going to do that over 5 years. The US Treasury will self-custody this Bitcoin and hold on to it, and her plan is that as they hold onto this Bitcoin, it's going to appreciate, as Bitcoin has obviously done in the past. And over time, this is going to allow the US to pay off their national debt. Now that sounds really cool, sounds awesome to me, but this is just a bill that's being introduced. It's not approved. It's not actually happening yet. It didn't do anything for the price action, so let's not get too excited. It's cool though. And then our main headliner came out, and that was obviously President Donald Trump, which still is just weird to me. You had Trump on stage, like this is the front-running candidate of the Republican Party. He is looking like he has a really good chance of being president, and he's on the Bitcoin stage. One thing that I didn't mention is this conference was so much more professional this year than things that we've seen in the past. They really outdid themselves, and I just thought it was really cool. Now, it did take a long time for Trump to actually come out on the stage. I believe he was like an hour late, but when you have a presidential candidate who was just, well, we all know what just happened to him. Of course, Secret Service is going to need time to clear the room. There's so many people that were at this event, so we got to give him the time, make sure the scene is safe, and then we will allow the president to come out and do his thing. So obviously it's Trump, so he came out and he campaigned for a long time in his speech, blah, 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 blah. Democrats bad, Republicans good. Don't really care about that. That's not what I'm here for. I want to know what you're going to actually do for Bitcoin. So one of the main things of his presidency is that he wants to make energy cheaper, which would obviously be good for miners. He's looking at attracting more Bitcoin miners into the US. He says he wants the US to be the central hub of Bitcoin mining, right? Now, obviously that doesn't work for us because we want to be decentralized. We don't want any craziness going on with the US government where they have some kind of control over Bitcoin. I'm sure they could with the power grid or whatever. We want it to be decentralized. So cool. Yeah, you want to attract more miners. We want it to be more efficient for them to mine and good for the miners. It's more profitable to have a lower energy cost when you're looking at crypto mining because that is really expensive. He also announced that he wants to have a strategic reserve of Bitcoin, as I just mentioned with that bill with Cynthia Lummis. The Treasury would be holding a supply of Bitcoin, which hopefully would appreciate over many years and pay off our national debt. I know a lot of people are looking forward to this, so I'll mention it as well. He did say that he was going to pardon Ross Ulbricht. I personally, whatever. I was there for like Bitcoin policies. If you're into that, he did say that he's going to pardon Ross. So there you go. You have it right there. But the number one thing that I found that he said as he's up there campaigning for himself, he said if he is president on day one, he is going to fire Gary Gensler. We all know Gary Gensler is a huge roadblock when it comes to cryptocurrency. He has no policies really when it comes to cryptocurrency. He leads by enforcement actions, which stifles innovation in the US. And what Trump is saying, I'm going to get rid of his punk ass and we're going to put someone as head of the SEC that's actually going to allow us to innovate and have our crypto. So if we didn't get anything else out of the Bitcoin 2024 convention, I think that is what we need to be looking at. I don't even see a lot of articles about Trump wanting to fire Gary Gensler. The main articles that I actually see is that he wants to have this reserve of Bitcoin, which is great. Obviously, if the US is buying into Bitcoin and they're holding on to it long term, that should bring the price up because you're going to have a stable buy. Like they're not planning on moving the Bitcoin or doing anything with it. So it should have some stability there as well, drive the price up as more people buy into Bitcoin. But I don't really see a lot of articles about Gary Gensler being fired. I thought that was huge news, but you know, you like what you like. So those are my main key highlights when it comes to the Bitcoin 2024 conference. If I missed anything, please comment down below. It's a 3-day event. I'm sure there's more that I didn't see. Now, hopefully this puts pressure on the Democrats as they should come out and also have positive crypto policies that will help us along. Have them fight for us, you know? Who's gonna do more for us, right? So hopefully that's gonna start a trend of them battling for who's gonna be more positive for Bitcoin. That's pretty much all I got. As always, thank you for watching.